Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Okay, so I'm live a little bit early. I was checking to see if I was trying to test the video, but testing the video got me live. So I'm here 4 minutes early. 4 minutes early. If you're here, I've got a page of notes about mistakes people make when they're moving abroad. So I will be getting into that in a second. Let me know how the sound is and how, I think you can see me. I can see myself. So that looks fine. I got a whole plate over here. I was truly not ready for this, y'all. I was just testing it, but I got snacks because I always have snacks. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. If you're here, let me know where in the world you are before we get started. Where are you coming in from? What's going on in your world? Check one thing. Yes, Yolanda, snacks are good. I'm hoping you can hear me from my microphone and not my actual phone. Like I said, I was just testing and it went live instead of testing. And if I end it, then it's a whole deal. So we're here, we're doing this. Pick Girl Travels is in Mexico. I know that because I went to her place on Friday because she had a little celebration because Friday was the 5-year anniversary of her ever moving abroad and the 1-year anniversary of moving back to Mexico, same day. So yay, we celebrated with cake because if there's no cake, there's no celebration. All right, let me get a little bit more light. I told y'all. All right. Okay, from Houston, LA. I have never been to Aguascalientes, so Minimal Myth, I'd love to hear about how it was. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's close enough to 10 now. Anyone who wasn't here in the first few minutes can always go back. Okay, so I want to talk to you guys today about the mistakes that people make when they move abroad. But this is, in the words of Stephanie Perry, a group project. I want you to share your mistakes with me. If you've moved abroad, let's share them together as a squad so that we can all learn from those mistakes together. So if you have moved abroad or even traveled long term, let us know what mistakes you made in the comments, and we can all grow together because a lot of things we want to do when we move abroad, a lot of things we plan to do, don't always work out as planned. I just realized I'm not plugged in. Like I said, I was just testing. Okay. Let me get some power before I cut out. So yeah, if you've moved abroad and made mistakes, let me know what they are. I just thought of another one. I had this one I thought of already, but I didn't write it down. No. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to the first mistake that I hear people come up with when they move abroad. And a lot of these things are things I see in Facebook groups where people are like talking about either their reasoning or what they're doing, their actions, and it's questionable at best. So one of the first things I see people doing is I see them leaving their home because they're running away from something. Now, there are things that are like perfectly fine to run away from. Like racism in America, great reason to leave. But like, I have a bad relationship with some person is a good reason to motivate change in your life. But moving to another country, unless you're like living in the same home with them, moving to another country isn't going to actually change that relationship. It's not going to make it better. You're still going to have a bad relationship. You're just going to be further away. So that's one variety of the running away I see. And if you guys are in expat groups, I'm sure you've seen it too. People who want to leave because they're in a lot of debt in the US. Well, yes. But if you don't get a handle on what on the reason you created a lot of debt that you cannot currently repay, you're going to end up overseas in another bad financial situation because you're running away from the debt without looking at what like caused the inner things. And sometimes these are all external causes, right? Like hospital bills for an accident or something like that. Like that is extremely external. There's nothing you can do about it. But unless it's a lot of times we have a role or could play a role that we're not actually cognizant of. Good morning to everyone here. Hey, Really Peanuts, Tanya, Sandra, Brenda, Mommy's here. Krishan, hey, everybody. Number 2 on my list, I say this all the time, but it's not doing your research ahead of time. And what that means is that a lot of times people are just like, I heard it's great in Ghana. I'm moving to Ghana. And it's like, great for who? Great for what? What does that mean? Right? Like what does great in Ghana actually mean? Who is it great for? What are you talking about? Why? Right? Like I have a lot of questions about that. People aren't researching, what I recommend is that people create a list of the things they want. So whatever top 5 things you want when you move to a new country, whatever top 5 things that are important to you. For me, I love a walkable city. I love a good cost of living. I love friendly people, lots of things to do, and good weather. And that put me in Mexico City, right? So make your list of top 5 things, figure out what those are, and make sure the place you've heard of that's great has the things that you're looking for. Because great for you doesn't mean great. Great for someone else doesn't mean great for you. Okay, so Adelia says one of her mistakes was not installing VPN before going to China. Rookie mistake, yes. So you have to do that kind of like, it seems super, I don't want to say annoying, but like it can seem really intense because like, how would you know you have to, like, you might know you need to use a VPN to get to certain websites in China, but did you know you need to install that VPN before you get to China? I went on a tour to China and our tour company told us like, you need a VPN and you need it before you get to China. But if you're moving abroad and you haven't thought about something like that, and it would never occur to you, the way you find out something like that is join the right Facebook groups and ask the right questions. Number 3 on my list of things people frequently do wrong, join really general Facebook groups and ask really general questions. Like Blacksit is a really popular group for Black people in America considering moving abroad. And sometimes, and this is not specific to Blacksit, but I just use them as an example. Sometimes the questions can be like, what did you think about Costa Rica? Like that's could be helpful to someone who has never been to Costa Rica before and wants really general information. But when you're thinking about moving to a place, you need more of a really general information, and you need to get information from sources you trust. If I'm considering moving to Costa Rica, I don't want I will not go to people who have only vacationed in Costa Rica to ask those questions. I want to find someone who has lived there, and I want to ask them really specific questions about their experience. I am not a person that thinks that you need to have spent a lot of time in a country or a city before you move there. I think that if you do enough research, you can replace like an exploratory visit with research. But if you don't do the research, you're going to end up not as happy as you could. Dwayne is in Mexico City. Yay, Dwayne. All right, Black Hannah just got a VPN. Yes. Nicole is in Shanghai with a VPN. Hey, Nicole. Holy Troller, is it true that you can't flush toilet paper in Mexico? I do not live places where you cannot flush toilet paper. There are some toilets and some plumbing systems in Mexico where in different places, even in Mexico City and in different places around the country where you, where they do not want you to flush toilet paper, where I use the toilet in my home and in places I like to go to, you can flush the toilet paper. And honestly, not flushing the toilet paper sounds like, to a lot of us, a terrible, awful thing, right? Like, it's just, there's just going to be like a can of poop paper, right? But it's truly not that bad. Any place I've been in Mexico where you cannot flush the toilet paper, someone is in there cleaning pretty regularly. So it's not like the paper piles up. But it is a thing. It's a thing in a lot of countries. I do not want that for my life. So I do not live in places where I cannot flush toilet paper. So yes. All right. Back on track. So number 3 on my list was relying on Facebook groups for info. There's 2 problems there. The wrong groups, three problems. The wrong groups, the wrong questions, the wrong people. You want people who live there. You want people who, you want to ask very specific questions, which means you need to gather a list of specific questions. Stop asking people, did you like living in Mexico, right? Number 1, Mexico is a huge country. There are going to be 1,000 different cities you could ask about. So ask city-specific questions. Ask questions about experience for people who you think might have a similar experience to you. No shade to anybody, but I'm not going to ask a white man about his experience when I'm considering living there, unless he's the only living soul that I can get to ask that question, right? Like, or I can get to answer the question. Because around the world, anti-Blackness is a thing, right? So a white man's experience and my experience as a Black woman are probably not going to be the same anywhere. We may have some similarities, like we may both be American, but that is not the biggest factor as you move around the world. How you present is often going to be a much more significant factor for how you're treated. And so that is one of the reasons when I speak about my experience, I talk a lot to Black women. And when I ask about people's experiences, I ask Black women a lot because I am not invalidating the experience of anyone else. White men, if you're watching this, I'm not invalidating your experience. I'm just acknowledging that in probably at least 95% of situations, we're not going to have the same experience. Okay. So ask the right questions, ask the right people, get in the right groups, get in country-specific groups, get in city-specific groups if you're considering moving to a place. Asking questions about specific places in really general groups aren't going to get you as much success as asking those questions about specific places in those country-specific groups. This is something I talk about a lot because I see it a lot online and people aren't really getting the responses that would be most helpful for them. Okay. Good morning, Janella. Let's see. All right. Mistake number 4, booking long-term accommodations before you get there. All right. Who has made this mistake? There's got to be one of you in the comments or who was thinking about it. When you are moving to a new place, unless you have actually stepped inside of the place you're considering renting or buying or leasing or whatever, or unless someone you trust with your life has done that, then don't do it. Rent a place for a short term, a week or 2, something like that, and then move on from there and look for places to stay. I'll use Mexico City as an example. Mexico City is generally very loud. I live in a quieter part of the city, but if noise bothered me, the exact location of my apartment or my home would make a huge difference because like where I used to live in Roma Norte, there was on Sunday, I don't know if someone was singing in the park or playing opera really loud, but there was opera coming from the park really loud every Sunday. There were often people who walked down the streets playing trombones. There was always a car. If you've been to Mexico City, you'll know this. There are vehicles that drive down with loudspeakers playing lots of noise, playing like a recorded message over and over again. Either they're selling something or they're collecting things, whatever. That doesn't happen on my street now. It happened because it's less of a neighborhood. It's a little bit more commercial, I would say. But back where I lived on my old street, that was constant. There was a guy who played. I lived across the street from a pizza place, and there was a guy who did like 80s cover karaoke-ish. He was a performer who did 80s cover bands in English every night from like 8 p.m. to midnight, every single night of the week. I wouldn't know that from a photo of the building, right? Like I would not know that. I only knew that once I moved in. Because when I visited the place, it was daytime. He wasn't there, right? Nighttime, every night, like I would know it was 12 o'clock on the dot because that guy had stopped singing. And it was the same rotation of songs every night. And you just got to know it. Like, yeah, this is where we are in the night. He's singing this song. Cool, great. But there are different things, like different neighborhoods. The person on the ground who, if there's someone on the ground doing work for you, whether that's a realtor or another human, they might, your version of safe and their version of safe might be different things, right? Like a place I looked at in Mexico City, beautiful. It was the only place I'd been into that was furnished in a way that I was like, I wouldn't mind living here. Everywhere else, it was like, this furniture is depressing me. I'm not moving in. But this one place I found, loved it. I got there and there were like, I think I've told you guys the story before. There were like 5 rim shops on that block. So I don't know how much noise goes into taking off car tires and then doing the rim and putting it back on and doing all that stuff. Oh, and there was a school across the street, but the school was closed because of COVID. I don't know how much noise that school is going to make when it opens. I don't know how much noise these rim shops are going to make. One is right next to touches the building that the apartment is in. It seemed safe, but there were like 20 men standing within like on the street corner. Now, if you know anything about Mexico City, people are typically doing something. Usually minding their business, right? Usually minding their business, whatever that is, they are doing it, whether they're selling something or walking. But these were just men standing around, I guess, waiting for customers to come or people hanging with their friends. And I was like, I don't want to come home anywhere in the world. This is not specific to Mexico. I do not want to come home on a dark street late at night where there are 20 men standing around. Like it's not my preference. Strange men I don't know, just hanging around my building. It wasn't ideal for me. Do I think it was unsafe? No. Would someone else have been as sensitive to that as I am? Maybe another woman, right? But like if a guy was looking at my place or looking for a place for me, like a male realtor or a friend in the city, would he have thought the same thing? I don't know. Because these men, I mean, they were looking at us, right? Like it was me and my mom, but they were looking at us because we are Black people in a city where there are not that many Black people. We stood out. Like, I get that, but it's too many of y'all. Y'all need to go be industrious somewhere. Go start a car, drive something, kick a tire. You're just standing out here in the street, just hanging out. Like 20. I've never seen that many people just hanging out when it looks like they should be working. And so I was like, I don't know what's going on this block. It's not for me. And so those are like, it's the intangibles. It's the things that are hard to describe. It's the things that you're sensitive to that someone else might not be sensitive to. It's the weather. I know someone asked Adelia about her mistake. I know about one of her mistakes, maybe the only one. I shouldn't have said one of, but she made a mistake when she moved to Mexico City of getting a place that she had to go outside to go to the bathroom in the rainy season. So at night, if it was raining and she had to go to the bathroom, she had to like walk outside to get to the bathroom. And she didn't know that from the Airbnb description. So these are all things that it helps to kind of see at different times of the day, no matter where you're moving. It's great advice for wherever you're moving, even if it is in your home country. But do not feel like you have to have long-term accommodations before you move to a place. I have never felt like that. I always go for a little while. And if I want to stay somewhere longer, but I find a place, it's never been a problem. Okay. Jill says, yeah, my mom always told me if you're thinking of renting an apartment, go to the area to check at night. It truly is even though you cannot just easily pop over to the country you're moving to and check it out, it's still important to do that check, which is why I'm saying get to the country, get something temporary for a week or two while looking for permanent accommodations. All right, let's see. Tremaine says Mexico City is amazing. Love it here. Yes, it is. Let's see. Okay, number 4 on the list, moving without an income plan. Like, I have money saved, but it's going to run out in a month or two, so I'm going to need to get a job. I'll figure it out. I beg of you, don't do that. Don't figure it out as you go. Figure out your income plan before you leave. In a lot of countries, it's hard to get a job unless you're a local person. In a lot of countries, the visa you're going to be on is not going to allow you to work. And trust me, you don't want to get deported. Like, just like America is sensitive to people who, people from other countries taking our jobs that we don't really want anyway, other countries are sensitive to it too. So you, as an American, it can be hard to find work for, like, at a company in another country. So don't plan to move abroad unless you have an idea how you're going to pay for your abroad experience. Maureen NW. Okay, I'm looking to see your mistakes in the comments. I've seen Adelia, Picky Girl Travels, leaves hers. Adelia, if you see the link to Picky Girl Travels, has her YouTube channel where she talks about living in Mexico City, life here. And she's going live today too at a time I don't know, but go ahead and put the time in the comments because I didn't hear your final decision about what time you're going live. So definitely, if you're considering moving to Mexico, Adelia is a great resource for that. So check her out. All right. I currently stay in Merida. It'd be hotter than a mofo. Yes, I hope my mom was thinking about Merida. I hope you see that. We keep talking about the heat in Merida. It's a no for this one. It's not. No. One of the things I love about Mexico City is that it's kind of a temperate climate all year round. It's probably 60 degrees today. It'd probably get up to like a high of like 70, 72, 73. It's a kind of place where, like, I can walk outside in a very light jacket and then be hot in an hour. It was 60 degrees the other day. I walked outside in a very, very light jacket and a t-shirt. I went to IKEA. By the time I came home, I was too hot for a jacket and like a little sweaty in a t-shirt. I was also moving stuff, so that explains the sweat. It wasn't like 90 degrees. It was probably like 75. Okay. Ooh, at 7 p.m. today, Adele will be talking about Mexican insurance. And if you were here a few weeks ago, we bullied her into this topic. We said, you have to do it. You have the knowledge. You have to share it. So if you're considering Mexico and you want to know about health insurance in Mexico, Adelia's talking about it. Make sure you subscribe and go live. I will, 7 p.m. Eastern. I will not be there because I'm hosting something else later on. I have a group coaching program that I do for my course From Burnout to Bliss, and that is tonight. So at 7 p.m., the exact time. So I won't be there, but I'll watch the replay. Okay. Let's see. So yeah, have a plan of how you're going to make income. If that is running your own business, great. But try to get the amount have your income from your business meet your projected expenses before you move abroad. It's really hard to grow a business, right? When you move to a new place, there's going to be a lot of things going on. You're probably not going to be as attentive to your business as you were previously. Going abroad and then starting a business, then it's a really hard way to make sure you're going to have a continuous flow of income that is going to pay for your new life. So please don't do that. Okay. Let's see. And W says, my coworker who's from Mexico, when I asked him about living in Mexico, the first thing he asked is, do you have a job? He wants to move back, but apparently jobs aren't really readily available. I do not know about the workforce in Mexico because I am not checking out the workforce in Mexico because I do not want to get deported, right? I'm a temporary residency now, but when I was here on a visitor, on the tourist visa, I was like, I don't know nothing about jobs here. Not my business. Not my business. I don't want to know. We're not asking questions about it because I like being here. And so there's a lot of things to consider as far as income goes. Like I said, have a plan that is, have a plan in place before you go. If it's your own business, have that plan moving. Stephanie Perry and I run the Get Your Next 3 Clients Challenge, which I don't have a link for right now. I might have a link for it. Let me see if I can find it. But it's something that we've used to help people who are considering moving abroad. Let me see if I have it. Start their own business or get enough clients so that they can have an location independent business, which leads to a location independent lifestyle. And so if you're interested in Get Your Next 3 Clients Challenge, we've had a lot of success with that. I just dropped a link to it. Stephanie knows, she was starting to put the link in. She knows that links. I have a new plugin. I'll talk about this sometimes. It's called, this is so off topic, but it's a lifesaver. What is it called? No, it's not telling me what it's called, but it's a plugin in Chrome that saves everything you copy. So that, like, I copied that probably weeks ago, but it's still in there because I copied it, and I can delete things I don't want in there. If I find the name of it, I will tell you. I just don't know it now, but it's super helpful. Are you gonna tell me what it's called? It's not gonna tell me what it's called right now. Darn. It might be Cloud Pro, if you're interested. This is totally off topic. Apologies, y'all, but it might be called Cloud Pro, and I use that to keep all of my links. It's a Chrome plugin. All right, y'all, thinking about Mexico. Let's do it. There's a lot of great things about Mexico. I talk about in other videos. Today, we're just gonna talk generally about moving abroad. Next on the list, trying to hide the fact that you've moved abroad from your employer. I'm tired, y'all. I'm so tired. Like, I know you want to keep that good government job, whatever it is. I know you don't want to give it up. I know you want to keep your bennies and everything you've invested in this job. If you think your employer will not know where you're going, you are probably wrong. If you work for an employer of any size, if there is an IT person on staff or even working as an occasional consultant, your employer will know where you are. And if they have said you have to work from the US, you're probably going to get fired. And if they haven't said that, if they're vague on it, you might get fired anyway. Don't do it. Don't. Krishan said, don't do it. Listen to me. Like my mama said yesterday, she was like, do you always have to be right? I said, no, I don't always have to be, but I am. I know what I'm talking about. This was a random conversation about the Olympics, but I am right. I don't always have to be, but I am. Now, Stephanie Perry is watching this and laughing because she knows I am frequently wrong, especially if it requires memory of something, like something that happened. My memory very short. My memory is very, very short. But these are just facts. Don't try to hide it from your employer. You will get fired. It might be a month. It might be 6 months. You might get away with it for a year. But if you've been dependent on that income for a year, then what happens when you no longer have that income after a year? Like, yes, you might get away with it for a while. But what happens after that, right? Like what happens when the income that you were dependent on goes away? If you've been building your own business in that year or trying to get away from that employer and you have a plan, you have a backup, great. If you weren't building a backup because you were comfortable that your employer would never find out, you might be screwed and you might be coming home. Oh, let me go ahead and add that to the list. So I think it's number 8 now. Thinking that when you move abroad, it means you're never going to end up in the US again. So this is for people leaving the US. If you work abroad, if you move abroad, there's always a chance something's going to happen that's going to make you come home, wherever that home is. So we talked about leaving to run away from debt earlier. Like, credit scores are a complicated subject, and I kind of hate them, and they're not that important. But if you come back to the US and you need a credit score, let's hope you didn't trash it before you left or just refuse to pay any debt. And now you can't get an apartment or get a job or some jobs because you need to have a decent credit score to get some jobs. Like, do not think that don't plan to move abroad in a way that if you ever move back home, life will be significantly different. Like, I'm not saying you need a return plan, but I'm saying you shouldn't do things to jeopardize your return. Okay. All right. Yes, Deborah, there are tax implications for the company if you work abroad and different employment laws. So you might think, oh, me just working abroad doesn't mean anything. But if your company's supposed to be paying taxes for you to work there and they weren't, they're going to be mad. They're going to be mad and they're going to take it out on you because who else would they take it out on? It's your fault. You didn't tell them. All right. Janelle, sounding very HR. I don't know. Do you work in HR, Janelle? Unless HR states via email that your location is independent with manager approval, then your location is based on wherever they think you reside as of the offer letter. Yes. If you have not told your company you have moved from what it said in your file, that's what they're paying taxes on, they will be upset to find out different. Dwayne says, can't you use a VPN and work for an American company online? Not if they told you can't. Like, okay, so I'm in Mexico. Netflix knows when I'm using a VPN, right? Amazon knows when I'm using a VPN to try to watch Prime. What makes you think the IT people in your company won't know you're using a VPN to log in? Like, they will know. Like, you might be able to get away with it at smaller companies if no one does an audit, whatever. But for big companies, especially if they're looking for that, they're going to know. They're going to know. Like I said, it might not be right away. They will find out. All right. Let's see. Okay, this one's interesting because I see it a lot in groups and I want us to be better humans. If you move abroad, that does not make you better from people who haven't done it. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. I see a lot of like people talk in Facebook groups for expats. I hear people talking about like the people who they've left behind, like they're not as good as or not as smart as, and that's not true. Like, we all move abroad for different reasons, and people stay for different reasons. And the same thing goes to like the country you move to. Like, within Black people, the Black conglomerate, the bucket we're in, especially Black Americans, I hear a lot of like, what is the point of moving if you don't move back to Africa? Like, what if you're not moving back to Africa, you're not really doing anything. Like, if you're not, could we not? Like, could we not? There are very valid reasons people would not want to move back to a lot of countries or move because for a lot of people who've never been there before at all, move to people in Africa, move to places in Africa, right? There are, in a lot of countries, some just logistical issues that people might not want to deal with. I loved Johannesburg. I could see myself there long term. But when I was there, they were doing power brownouts, and I think they are too. So like it would just be a random afternoon. I'd be working online and then the power would go out for a couple of hours. Yes, my laptop might still work, but the internet is down. Like if you are working for for an employer, can you afford to be down for hours at a time because there's no power, right? As a business owner, because people know my business is based on me living abroad, like I could probably get away with that and people might be understanding, but some people might not, right? And so that does not happen to me in Mexico. It happened to me consistently in Johannesburg, and it still happens. And so those are things to consider that, like, yes, moving back to Mother Africa is an amazing experience, but you have not exited America any more than anyone else has. Like, let's be real. A lot of us want to leave the US because the US as a whole is not a healthy environment for us. But like, mind your business about where your neighbor moves to, right? Like, mind your business about where someone else moves to. You don't have to judge them. Like, it's not required. I got it. There's no point. All right. Let's see. Yes, and W, don't country/continent shame me. Like, why? Okay, you moved to Ghana, great. And this is no shade to people who actually do that, but like, and there are thousands of Black Americans who do that without shaming other people. But there are those people, you know them, if you're in expat groups, you see them, they are popping up like, I did it right, you are doing it wrong. It's like, Like if I have an incredible urge to move to Germany because I love schnitzel, mind your effing business. Like that has nothing to do with you. You don't need to tell me how horrible my experience is going to be, because the people who are saying that have usually never lived in Germany. They just think it's going to be bad for them, right? And so they're telling me it's going to be bad for me. That is not helpful or productive. You don't have to do that. All right now. Okay. Next on the list, oh child, my writing is so bad. I looked at my notes and could not see what that said, but I figured it out. Next on the list of move abroad mistakes is thinking that when you leave the US, any other place you go is going to be paradise. It's not. Like, I love Mexico City. Love it. It's not paradise. It's great. There are things I wouldn't trade about it. And there are things where I'm like, well, okay. Like I didn't have power. And I'm sorry, I had power. I didn't have hot water for 2 days this week. And your girl could not figure out why. I cannot figure out why. I had to go take a shower downstairs in the pool area. Now, privilege. I have a pool. My building has a pool and a pool area with showers. Amazing. Marble. Like it's beautiful. Now that I've had a shower there, I kind of like it better than the shower in my apartment. Not the point. The point was that like it took me a while to figure out why I don't have hot water. I figured it out. I didn't really figure it out. I unplugged the boiler on the wall, left. I unplugged it a few times while I was home. Nothing happened. It's working. Every button says it's working. It's fine. I plugged it, left for a few hours, came back, plugged it in, hot water, like nothing happened. Like it hadn't been missing for 2 days, just magic hot water showing up. I know I never had a boiler in America. I had a hot water tank. I would have been better able to figure out what was going on with the hot water tank than this boiler if it has instructions on it in Spanish. Like it's an extra layer of work, right? If you're not familiar with how these things go. We talked about how places aren't paradise. The other day I went to Adelia's. It took me an hour to get there and 30 minutes to get back home because traffic was so bad when I left to go. Maybe even 20 minutes to get home. I wasn't really counting, but it was over an hour to get there. Every place has its problems. Every place, you name the top 5 things you want, maybe also name the top 5 things you don't want, and check that against the place you are thinking of moving. there is no paradise on earth. There just isn't. There might be a place that you really like a lot. Like I said, I like Mexico City a lot. One of you is going to come here to visit and be like, I could never in my life imagine moving here. I mentioned earlier, my friend who's from Chicago came to Mexico City to visit, and she'd been living in Playa for a while. For a couple of years, she'd been in Playa. She came to Mexico City, and she was like, it's too much. She's like, it's too much city. There's the city never ends. Like, it's too much. It's too much city life. And I'm like, you're from Chicago. She's like, no, it's too much. It's too much city life. This was not paradise for her, right? She wants to ride a bike down on a street by the beach and get fresh juice from a fresh juice guy. Now, there's a fresh juice guy on the corner. He's next to the sushi guy. It doesn't make sense to me. But it's not my business. It's not going to be paradise for everybody else. For a lot of people, it's not paradise for me. There are things that are not perfect about the city, but it's my place. And so go romanticizing places you're considering moving to. And once again, I see this a lot with places in Africa. My life is going to be so much better once I move to Ghana. And it's like, is it though? Like, what are you leaving behind and what are you gaining that is going to make your life so much better? Or are you just changing locations? And are you changing locations to a place that has its own problems? Like, assume any place you go is going to have its own problems. Don't romanticize it. It is what it is. I will tell you one of these days, I'll probably make a video about the stuff I don't like about Mexico City. Traffic. Very short video, traffic. But I see people romanticizing places all the time, and it's like, you're going to get disappointed. And the thing about that disappointment, it can feel like you made the wrong choice, right? Or that, so you picked the wrong city, or that you made a mistake to move abroad at all. And that's not necessarily true. You just have to own the fact that, like, nothing is perfect. Nothing is going to be perfect for you. You just got to roll with it. All right. Let's see. Okay, Mom and Deb are having a whole conversation. Oh, is that my cousin? Hey, yeah. Hey, Debbie Ann. I said, yeah. All right, what's going on in here? My mom and her cousin are having a conversation in the chat. Yes. Okay. So a mistake that Janelle mentioned here, I don't know if it's a mistake she's made or it's a mistake she sees, is not making a backup plan if traveling abroad isn't as expected. That's why I'm saving more money in case I unfortunately decide to move back to the US. I always say when you go abroad, have a cushion of money. So if you think your budget is going to be $10,000, have 12. Something is going to go wrong and it's going to cost you money, right? Like, moving abroad, the same thing applies. Something is going to go wrong and it's going to cost you money. Be ready for that. And something could go wrong, as in, like, you move to a city and you're like, this is not it for me. Let me check out another city in this country. There are moving costs associated. So, you know what I mean? It might not be like, I want to move back to the US, but it might be like, this isn't the city for me. You just have to be cognizant of it and figure it out. Oh yeah. Okay. So Debbie Ann Brown is my cousin, is in Germany. I think Debbie Ann's is the cousin in Germany. I think so. I'm not mixing her up with another cousin. And she loves it there. She's been there a long time. Let's see. Dwayne, I'm not laughing at you, Dwayne. I'm laughing with you. Dwayne says, when I first got to Mexico City, I wanted to cry and move back to Texas, but I've grown to love the hustle and bustle of Mexico City. Yes. Cities are frequently not what you expect because people tell you about one side of it and not the other. I love the hustle and bustle of Mexico City. I think it's one of the reasons I like Johannesburg too. It's not as much hustle and bustle, but it feels like, you can get out there and move and shake and do things, and there's always something happening. I like that feeling. But you got to find your place sometimes, your place in the world. But if you're here, you're probably open to finding your place in the world, and I really am happy for you. You know what I mean? Like, not every human thinks about uprooting themselves and moving to a place that will make them happy. But if you are considering that, that makes me happy, right? Like I am happy for you because it's a big move, but it's a great move. Like it's finding a place, like not every city is for everybody. So the city you were born in might not be for you, but when you find that place that makes you happy, fireworks go off. Internal fireworks, but still. All right. This one is related to the last one. Thinking you will have no problems. There are going to be some issues. You're going to figure out. Okay, so my first week here in 2019, 3 people attempted to steal my purse. It was a terrible attempt. I laugh at it now. Like, even in the moment, I was kind of laughing at it. But it was kind of like, it was one of those like, she's in the restaurant. If we distract her with something shiny over here, someone will be able to walk off with their purse over here. So it wasn't like they tried to snatch my purse from my body. It wasn't like that. But I'm watching this terrible attempt to distract me as someone sits down right next to my purse. And I'm like, y'all thought this was gonna work? Like, this older woman has dropped change all over the floor, right? Right next to me, like some of it is sitting on my chair now, right next to me. Y'all thought I was going to get up and help this old lady with her change and leave this man sitting next to my purse while there are other able-bodied people in the restaurant, while she walked in with other able-bodied people, while there are restaurant employees? Y'all got me effed up. Like, no. I was like, oh, someone will have to help her with her money. Because this man who I don't know, and I'm the only customer in this restaurant. Everybody else, and the 3 who came in together, and all the other tables are empty, and this man has come and sat on the bench next to me. There are like 6 empty tables, and now we are sharing a table. I see you trying to rob me. And I was extra sensitive to it because I had actually gotten robbed in Vietnam, like maybe in the month prior. So I was sensitive to that happening. And so it didn't happen. But if it had happened, I would have been in Mexico City with no keys to the place I live. I was living maybe no credit cards. I don't know what was in my wallet that day. I was going to a market. All of my cash would have been gone. Things will happen. You'll have to pivot and maneuver around. I always say it's a safe city, but yes, within like a week of being here, someone did try to steal my wallet. That has never happened again. Or my purse. No one, you know what I mean? Like, I have not experienced crime again. It's a short crime story, but it's irrelevant to this. But something is going to happen wherever you go. Life will not be perfect. You will have problems. I talked about how I didn't have hot water earlier this week. I didn't have hot water for like 4 days a month ago because I didn't have gas. And why didn't I have gas? Because I did not pay my gas bill. That was a problem. But it also leads to my next or another thing that people can do wrong, which is not being aware of the utility cycles. Like, if you are paying utilities yourself, you have to remember that things don't happen the way they happen in the US, and you have to be aware of that. So typically what happens in Mexico City, I will speak to the rest of the country, is that you get a bill for most utilities every 2 months. By the time it shows up in my mailbox, I sometimes have, what day is it today? I have a couple days for the last bill I got. All right. I sometimes have less than a week to pay the bill. And I have less than a week before the deadline to pay the bill. And on the deadline to pay the bill, in most situations, you cannot pay the bill anymore. Like, that bill, like, after the deadline to pay, I could not pay my gas bill, and then they turned it off. And I was like, but I couldn't, like, I tried to pay it and I could not pay it because it's past the deadline. And they were like, that's great. Your gas is off now. So if you are gone for a week, in between the week, your bill shows up in the mailbox. Could be 10 days, could be 3 days from the time you see it. Who knows? Could be 0 days. Um, your utilities might be getting turned off. Not having gas for 4 days was a problem. Um, I have not been able to figure out an automated payment option for those bills. As far as I can tell, there is not one. And so, like when I was in Florida for a month, any bill that came in during that time, like I came back and I had 4 utility bills and I was only able to pay one. The rest were past the deadline. And it was like, one of them was the gas bill. And the gas company surely was like, and now you don't have gas anymore. Good luck, God bless. By the time I figured out what was going on and I paid it, they turned it back on either the same day or the next day. Like I figured out how to pay it when it was late, which is really just paying, like you could pay it, we had to pay the additional fee, but they didn't say that anywhere. I had to go digging on the website to find out what to do. Because they didn't tell you, like there was no way to see how much was due. You just had to like do some math and then pay it through a third-party service. Anyway, the point was, I mean, it got turned back on, but like not having I don't have a microwave, so I heat up all my food in the oven or on the stove. So I didn't have an oven or stove. So I couldn't have any kind of warm, hot food for those days. I couldn't have a hot shower in my apartment. It was not ideal. It was not ideal. And truly, there was little I could have done about that besides have someone check my mail while I was gone and pay my bills, which I would have never thought about. But now that I've thought about it, I'm adding it to the list of things to do if I leave for a long time again. To whoever's watering my plants. Last time, my plant waterer was a picky girl who apparently does not have a green thumb. And I'm going to talk about this forever. Okay, so before I said she murdered my plants, but I'm going to take that back. She followed my instructions. But my instructions were what kept my plant alive when I was here. So what I think really happened when I was gone for that month is when she came to water the plants, check on them, she wasn't giving the plants enough love. Like she wasn't loving them the way I loved the plants. And I think that's why they died. I think there wasn't enough love coming from her towards my plants. And that's what happened to my plants. So I'm really sad about that. And I'm going to talk about this forever. She's here now watching me be dramatic. I am going to talk about this forever, which probably means that she will not be watering my plants next time because she knows I talk about her on the internet for doing it. All right. Okay. So next on the list is, okay. A lot of people think that once they leave America, they will be America free. They will be America free. Every day I saw someone in a Facebook group saying she wants to move to a place where she doesn't see American brands. And I was like, oh, Starbucks is everywhere, sis. So what's that like? Yes, I am sure there are small towns in a lot of different countries where you will find no American brands. You probably will also find intermittent electricity and very, very slow internet, if any. Our world has been globalized, right? So like you will see American brands and global brands everywhere. So like I am 2 blocks away from a Toyota dealership. It's not an American brand, but it is a global brand. There are 3 Starbucks within 2 blocks of me. Does that mean I live in America? No. Does it feel like America? No. Can I leave my apartment ever and go outside and not see American brands? No. The Uber driver is probably going to pick me up in a Ford. Like, it just is what it is. Like, globalization is a thing that has happened. You are going to see American brands all over the place. If seeing American brands makes you feel like you're in America, you got to move to like a small town in Ecuador. I don't know. Like like it is the world we live in. Globalization is a thing. These places are everywhere. Stephanie says even Cambodia. All right. And a lot of people move from America and think they're no longer going to see Americans. There are things you can do to decrease the chance you're going to see other Americans, like moving to a small town in the middle of Ecuador. But if you want a life that has any of the creature comforts of home, there's probably another American looking for the same thing in the same town, and you will run into them. Some of them will be ugly Americans. Some of them will not. You're not going to escape the brand and the people of America anywhere in this world. Like, it's not going to happen. There might be Americans you like more than others in certain cities, right? But you're not going to get away from people you're trying to get away from. Can y'all hear the people in my hallway? I don't know if you can hear that. It's the building isn't as soundproofed as I would like. And I think that's just not a thing here the way it is in certain places in the US. You get used to that kind of thing. But the parties have started. I think summer might be party season. They're partying until like 5 a.m. I say they, I mean my neighbors, partying until like 5 or even 6 a.m. loudly. It's a thing. And I was talking to Adelia about this the other day, like, what is the cultural norm? If it's 6 a.m. and I've been listening to your music loudly and the people talking, is it okay if I go knock on your door and tell you to keep it down? Or would that be very like ugly American of me? I don't know in Mexico City. But 6 a.m. on a Thursday night, Friday morning, like it's not even a weekend. It's a Thursday night. And you're having a party. And one, I wasn't invited, right? And two, like, can I get some sleep? Like, when does this end? The sun is up. When does your party end? I just don't know if it is acceptable to like tell your neighbor to keep it down around here because it is a loud city. Anyway, that was totally sidebar. Let's see. Let us see. Yes, Adele, you did warn me that plants were not her thing, but like, it's no love. The plant's good. The ones that made it. Let's see. All right. I still want to hear what your mistakes are, or if you have questions about moving abroad, drop them in the comments. I think I've gone through my list of, it says 12, but I think we added on some as we went about. So tell me, what are your questions? And no, you cannot. I saw a question about the utilities. Can you pay in advance? No, you cannot pay in advance. They don't like it. Okay, if you're here and you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I think there's a button somewhere around there for you to subscribe. If you haven't liked it, give it a thumbs up. And you'll see more of me on your YouTube homepage. Okay. Oh, and I talked to people about moving to Mexico. Yeah, if you don't like noisy neighbors, Mexico City. I can't think of a city I visited in Mexico where I did not experience noise. Like, I love San Miguel de Allende, but it's noisy. It's like in regular times, in non-COVID times, every Friday and Saturday night were like party central because it's a tourist. It has a lot of tourists from other parts of Mexico. And so people would be in there celebrating wedding. There'd be like 17 weddings, right? So people are in there celebrating and stuff. And it was just like, it did not stop. There are fireworks. There are the big, I don't know if you see the people who are like on stilts with the big heads and they're huge people things. They're in the town center. It's a lot of noise, but I still love it there. But if you do not love loud cities or loud neighbors, Mexico might not be for you. Okay, I'm trying to find you. Boom, here we go. I help people move abroad and take career breaks with Ask Me Anything sessions. So you can drop the link right there if you want to move abroad, if you want to, and you have questions. If you want some help figuring out life in Mexico, you can book a session with me, Ask Me Anything, and I will be there to answer all of your questions. Let's see. Are there houses to rent versus apartments? In the neighborhoods, I looked for houses for rent. I looked at those prices, and I was like, I was in, I think it wasn't Condesa. It might have been like the outskirts of Condesa, and like a 3-bedroom house, 2 or 3-bedroom house was $4,000, and I was like, 4,000 US dollar? No, I don't. It's not for me. So yes, there are houses to rent, but where I wanted to live in neighborhoods that are more conducive to apartments. There are a lot of small apartments. I live in a big apartment building in a tower. There are a lot of small apartment buildings too. So like 4-unit places, stuff like that. The place I lived in when I first moved here in Roma was a 6-unit building. Yeah, so there are a lot of options like that, but there is a premium on space. It's a large city, but it's a very dense city with a high population. So a lot of people live together. So I think houses can be harder to find because someone's whole family has been in that house forever and they're not leaving. It's just the next generation, right? Like people are not, as far as I understand, people are not giving up houses like that. Apartments tend to be easier to come by. All right. Yes, Charisse, I wish I'd not gotten the yellow fever vaccine in the States because when I was only $40 at the airport when I went to Uganda. I tell everyone that if you need a yellow fever shot to go somewhere and you're going to be somewhere else before that, see if they have that shot there, right? So like if it's usually like $300 or $400 in the States. I think when I was in Colombia, they were like, it's $20. I didn't get it then. I should have, but it is significantly cheaper outside of the US. Besides our messed up for-profit healthcare system, I do not understand why we're consistently told that the yellow fever shot costs what it does because there's a shortage, which is what I'm always told when I ask about the price. Oh, it's hard to get in the States when like you can get it for $40 in Uganda. You can get it for, I think it was $20 in Colombia. Like if it's available in these other countries, why is there a shortage in the US? Is it an intentional shortage to drive up the price? Because people who want it really need it for something. Like people aren't getting yellow fever shots in America just because it's Tuesday, right? They're getting yellow fever shots because they're going to somewhere that requires it. And because they're going somewhere that requires it, you've created this artificial shortage that makes it expensive. If there's a legit reason for the shortage and you know it, go ahead and let me know. But I've never heard anything that explains the shortage that makes it so expensive when it's so cheaper everywhere else. But I have strong feelings about the yellow fever shot in the US. Kelsey, would you say explore all states in America first before starting to move abroad? No. I would say be open to going back to America. Like if you want to see all 50 states and that is a goal of yours, and you think that once you leave, you're going to go somewhere where you're not going to come back, sure. Exploring all 50 states isn't a life goal of mine. And I'm in Mexico, so I can easily get back to the States if I wanted to. So that is not how I chose to do it. But like I said, if it's a goal of yours, if you're moving somewhere that's really far away and you think once you go, you're never coming back, do it. But otherwise, there's a lot to see in the US. I'm not going to say that there's not a lot to see, but there's also a lot to see in other places as well. And so I would definitely, for me and my life, I would prioritize moving abroad above seeing all the 50 states. All right. Ideally, I would like some private outdoor space, just a little. Hopefully, it's better in Guadalajara. Nothing is better in Guadalajara. Nothing. Nothing. I mean, okay, maybe housing prices. Maybe there is more houses for rent. Maybe there are more places with backyards. But like, I didn't like GDL. You might love it, Ava. I shouldn't say that. Like, it might be great for you. It wasn't for me. It was boring. It was so boring compared to Mexico City. Let's see. Are there bike lanes? Hi, Roshida. Bike lanes. Generally, no. I think I might have seen a few in the city. Generally, no. But the drivers here don't respect pedestrians. So even if there were bike lanes, I wouldn't expect them to respect that. There are bus lanes, and drivers don't respect the bus lanes either. The rules of traffic here are like, don't die and don't kill anybody else, which when you're in a car is a lot simpler than, or a lot can be lower stakes than when you're on a bike, right? There are certain roads like Reforma that get shut down every Sunday so you can ride your bike down the road. And there are people who travel the city on bicycles. As a foreigner, I would not do that for a long distance. It doesn't, there are everywhere in the city. There are like those little city bikes you can rent. So you can rent a bike and ride anywhere. But I think I tend to see people riding more on sidewalks than in the road. These drivers here, I tell y'all, it's not for play. It's not. Like, they are serious. They're not going to hurt you if they can help it. They are not going to hurt you. I don't think they want that insurance problem. Like, they don't want the paperwork. They don't want to deal with it. They are probably not going to hurt you. They're going to try their hardest. I have been in the city this time, let's call it 7 or 8 months. I have not seen a car accident one time, not even past the remnants of one. But every single time I get in a car, I just got to be like, the driver's going to do what the driver's going to do. He's a professional. That's a professional right there. I'm not going to pay any attention to what lane we're in. Did we make a left turn from the right lane? Not my business. My business is only to get there safely. I'm gonna let this professional do what this professional is doing. That is my attitude about traffic and driving in Mexico City. I'm not interested in driving. I'm not interested in being in the roads. I don't want to be on a bicycle. I don't want to be driving a car. My stress level is not built for that. No. Mm-mm. Okay, so Adelia Street has bike lanes. Adelia is more tiny bit, I want to say suburban, but it's not really suburban. Adelia Street has bike lanes, but she's a little bit more of the outskirts of the city than I am. There are bike lanes. Adelia, are the bike lanes in your street, are they protected? Like, is there something like a hump or a bump? And do cars respect that? I was in an Uber once that drove over the hump to get into the bus lane to get around traffic, which is why I'm like, what is the bike? If they'll do that to a bus lane, what does the bike lane mean? Let's see. Dwayne had to pay 6 months in advance. I paid 3 months in advance, but it was during the pandemic, so I think it was harder to rent. And I got a price reduction for paying 3 months in advance. Leah, I go to Canada a lot, but I don't have any information about moving to Canada, specifically to Canada. I have information that will help in a move in general, but not like, when I think of what you need to know for moving to Canada, I think of like visas and like that kind of thing. I don't have that specific information right now. I try not to give advice about moving to specific countries unless it's like something that I'll say something that I already know, right? Because I want you to get really good information. And there might be someone who knows more about moving to Canada. Like I said, I can help you move in general. But as far as like making sure you have dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's for Canada, that's not my jam. All right. Um, Abba says, okay, so Picky Girl, Adelia says in her street, it's a bus, in her neighborhood, it's a bus bike lane shared. And there are humps that prevent you from getting into it. And for the most part, people respect it. It's that for the most part that makes me nervous. As someone who doesn't cycle regularly, that's the part that makes me nervous about that. But you know, if bicycling is your thing, like Nicole, it might be perfect for you. All right. Abba says she's somewhat concerned about earthquakes in Mexico City. What's your experience been? I grew up in California, so for me, earthquakes are kind of like, but did we die? Which that happens in Mexico City. I live in a newer building. Mexico City has sustained some earthquake damage that has informed how buildings are now built. Just like how in California, it took some bad things happening for earthquakes to change the way buildings were built. Same thing's happening here. It's just later on. I don't worry about earthquakes here. I think I told you guys that my apartment is in the 20s. And when they talk about earthquake drills, I'm like, who gonna walk down all those flights of stairs? Like, if there's an earthquake, I'll be right here. But I did, because once you walk down, you got to walk back up because you're not gonna turn the elevator on right away. But I did a test and I can walk down and walk up just fine. With my knee down hurts a little bit, but I'll be okay. In an earthquake, I can make it to the bottom. I'm not worried about the building collapsing. I have no reason to believe that it would or would not. But as someone who grew up in California, I'm more scared of like tornadoes. When I live in the Midwest, tornadoes freak me out because it's like, where's it coming? What's going on? Where is it? What's happening? I don't know. But like earthquakes, I'm like, yes, the building is shakes, and then you go back to sleep. But I understand that for other people who did not grow up like that, it can be a lot scarier. We haven't had a bad one in the city in a number of years. Certain places aren't for certain people. Like if earthquakes really scare you, this is probably not a great city for you. You can see earthquake damage old earthquake damage as you walk around the city. Like the sidewalks are incredibly uneven. And so this is the thing that makes it a little bit more difficult for people who have any challenges walking. If you have any mobility issues, the sidewalks in Mexico City are not great. Like it's a lot of like bumps, like where the seam in the sidewalk has buckled all over the place. So it's not great. I'll say that. Not great. For people with mobility issues. All right, Nina, you are late for the party. And Kelsey, thank you for the setup compliment. It wasn't quite what I wanted today, but we're working on this. It's gonna get there soon. All right. All right. Would I consider doing a walking tour of my area? No, but I can hook you up with one. If you want one, shoot me a message or an email and I can send you a link to one. I am not interested in doing walking tours. I am not interested in entertaining groups of people at a time. Although I say that as I'm talking to a group of people at one time, but I really mean it. Like, I think a walking tour of Mexico City is often going to be done best by someone who's lived here their whole life or who's lived here for 10 years or more. And so that's who I would refer you to. Let's see. Mexico City is one of the strictest construction codes in the world due to earthquakes, plus Mexico and Japan are the only countries that alert people before an earthquake hits. Mexico City might have one of the strictest construction codes, but a lot of buildings were built before they had those strict construction codes. And that's why you see a lot of earthquake damage. And that's why when you're renting a place, they will have information about whether it's like up to code or not. Like when not this place, but the place before it, they mentioned to me that like there was no damage in the big earthquake. Like it wasn't damaged at all, which meant like it made it through the last big earthquake. If there's another one, it should be fine because it was an older building. It was actually a factory of some sort. All right. Okay. Anything else you want to talk about today? All right. Adelia says, you can't control anything with an earthquake, so I don't worry. Yeah, I don't worry about earthquakes. I'm just like, I started last time I went to Costco, because I do go to Costco. There's no Mexican replacement for Costco, right? Like there's a Costco, you want to buy things in, like, if I want snacks in bulk, I'm going to Costco. So I went to Costco. I bought things that I can start creating an earthquake preparedness kit. And I started putting bottles of water in all the rooms. Always so that like, if I have, like, I know what I need to do. If I have a guest that's here, like I have a guest coming for most of August. Hi, Mom, you didn't know this, but she'll be in your room. I want to be able to tell them like, this is where our supplies are if anything goes wrong. I don't think anything will go wrong that will prevent you from going from the bedroom to the kitchen, but just in case, this is where snacks are. As someone who spent a year of their life in Florida, that collapse down there had me just a little bit more cautious of the fact that like I am on the 20-something floor. I should be, if anything were to happen and there were to be a pile of rubble, can I at least have a granola bar close to me? Like, I can't do anything about it, so I don't worry about it. But like, where them snacks at? Right? Like, let me put water and snacks everywhere, so if there's anything, if anything does happen, it'll be close by. All right. What's the number one food I eat and like the most here? Number one food. Okay, the fruit in Mexico. It's like God was like, you know what we should do today? I'm gonna make this pineapple. Boop. He made a pineapple. Boop. Touched by, no, not by an angel, but by God. Boop. Everything. Like the fruit here, I go back to Florida and I'm like, what is this food? Is this even in the same family? It's not the same species of plant. I just don't believe it. The fruit in Florida, the fruit in Mexico is so good. Whether you buy it in the grocery store, a man on the side of the street, whether it comes in a smoothie or a whole fruit or cut up, every single time I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Brown baby Jesus, you and your daddy did it again. Thank you. It's good. Thank you. So I think that's it. Like, there's a lot of food I love to give me a taco. Give me some of these meats down here. Love it. But the fruit is truly, for me, a different experience. Like, I've eaten a lot of good tacos in my life, a lot of good tacos outside of Mexico. They weren't as cheap. But the fruit down here, like the mangoes, like, did y'all invent mangoes? Like, I'm partially Jamaican, right? So I can't say y'all invented mangoes. My mama would kill me. But I kind of feel like maybe y'all did. Like, what were those Mayans doing back there when they were blessing the seeds and stuff? Like, what? The food. Holy Troller, thank you for the monies. Appreciate you. Let's see. NW says, I'm from Florida and live here most of my life. I've never seen anything like that. Hurricanes, yes. Building just collapsing in the middle of the night. Never. Yes. As a person who's lived in a lot of earthquake prone places, I'm sensitive to building collapses. Like I see that and I'm like, yes, prep. Like even though you don't think anything's going to happen, buy some snacks, put them around the place just in case. All right. Let's see. Florida's fruit is so huge, photographic, delicious, but they don't have flavor. Yes, Florida's fruit looks amazing, but I'm like, you cut into the pineapple and it's white, but it's ripe, but it's still white. Like, why? I don't want a white pineapple. I don't want a pineapple with no juice. Like, if I cut it, I want the juices to flow. Where's the flowing yellow juice? Where? It's not there. All right. Hey, Rosanna. Rosanna from Waffle Cat Studios says, what's the most underrated tourist thing to do or see in Mexico City? Underrated. So I'm underrated. Okay, this is random. But it is a big Catholic city. There are a lot of pretty cool churches here. There's one that's pretty far out that has a shrine. I want to say like Our Mother, Guadalupe is in the name. I don't remember its exact name. And something, image of God on a cloak, of Jesus on a cloak, or Mary, image of someone on a cloak, saint, something. I've written about this before, but clearly it's not all up in here right now. And it's popular as like, I think it's a pilgrimage site. I think it's one of those like places where Catholic people go to see Catholic stuff. Clearly not Catholic, not very religious. But there's a moving sidewalk, which I love. It's a church with a moving sidewalk inside. So you can't be there hogging up all your time in front of a cloak with the image of Saint Jesus, Daddy, whoever. I don't know. But so you got to like get on the sidewalk and look at it as you roll by. And there's just something about that that's like the mix of like the old and the new and the religious and the secular, but it's just, it moves me. It really does. Every time, I've only been there, I think twice, but when I go, I'm like, this is so dang cool. It is so cool to be in a church that has a moving sidewalk so that everybody gets to see it. You move and you keep moving past it. It's I don't know. So that is one of my favorite random things. One of my favorite random things about it. I just love it. It is on the way back to and from the pyramids. Now the pyramids are my absolute favorite thing. It's a day trip. You can hot air balloon over them. You can go walk through them. You used to be able to climb them, but the line was like asses and elbows. Like it was just people in front of you for hours in line. Real close, real tight, in line for hours, and to walk around it and get to the top. And so they stopped during COVID. I don't know if they're going to do that, open it up again like that. But getting to the top of the pyramid was like, it's just like I didn't feel anything when I went to, what's the place? Not Sonora, not Sonoma, the place in the desert in New Mexico where people go and they feel things. I felt not a thing. One of y'all knows what I'm talking about. I felt nothing, but at the top of the pyramids, I was like, this is pretty magical. Like I feel a very good energy here, like an old energy. And it sounds kind of like dorky, maybe a little creepy, but I got there and I was like, this is good. There's good vibes. Or good vibes. Now, I think some not good things happened at those pyramids, but I still got good vibes. Okay, Tremaine, that was TMI, but go. Yes, Sedona, Waffle Cat. Go, Tremaine, do your thing. We did not need all that info, but we appreciate you being here. Let's see. I saw someone asking about nationalities of children born abroad. If the parent is an American citizen, the child should be an American citizen as well. They can often get dual citizenship. And then, yes, someone mentioned birthright citizenship, which I think is what it's called. Well, not every country has birthright citizenship. Not every country will give you citizenship if you're born there, but a lot will. But you will still, your child will still be an American, but they might be American and something else, or they might be able to get dual citizenship. All right. Let's see. Yes, Basilica de Guadalupe has an electric walkway because they don't want people to stay for hours in front of Guadalupe's original painting. Yes, thank you. That's it. That is a much shorter way of saying what I was trying to say, but like the electric sidewalk is my jam. All right. All right. Sedona is Arizona. Jay, clearly me and my geography are not the thing. Let's see. Cameron Cole, any advice on how to make a living abroad? I was thinking of doing real estate investments. I think if that's what you want to do, you should figure out, how to, you should be asking for advice on doing real estate investments abroad in maybe an expat group or in like a business group. There are a lot of different ways to make money abroad, but you should be doing something that you're passionate about, or you're not going to enjoy it. And being in a different place isn't going to make you enjoy it more. And needing the money to live is going to make you enjoy it even less. So, all right. Really, peanut, come with a bunch of pesos in my pocket so I can eat the fruit. Yes, but I actually want to touch on something real quick. When you're thinking about going abroad and you need money, unless you need to arrive with a bag of cash, which I hope you don't. I hope you're not doing anything that requires you to get somewhere with a bag of cash. But unless you need that, my recommendation is always don't get money abroad. Don't exchange money in the airport. Go to an ATM. Get a fee-free checking account. And even if you don't, it's probably still cheaper to get money out of the ATM with a card that will charge you fees than it is to go to those exchanges at the airports, either going or arriving. And it might be a little better than what you get from your bank abroad. So ATMs. Don't use exchanges. In Mexico, I saw a complaint the other day that someone used one of those airport exchanges and they got fake currency. Oh no, I wasn't there. Could happen anywhere. I didn't know counterfeiting was a thing down here because like the largest bill of 500, which is $25. So it's not it's not nothing, but like, what are we? Maybe there's $1,000 bill, 1,000 peso bill. Is there? I do everything with a card. Like, let me swipe. Cash in my hand, I hardly ever have it. And so currency. But yes, ATMs are way preferable, even with ignoring the counterfeiting issue, even with the exchange rates and the fees attached. You're going to do much better out of the ATM than you are from any exchange places. All right. Can you open a business there, or do you need to be a citizen? I think it depends on what you mean. Open a business, right? Like, is your business a street front where you service people, or is your business something you do from your laptop and you don't actually see people. Like if you are talking about like on the street, you're gonna need, you may be able to do it as a resident, but you're gonna need paperwork. It's gonna be a thing. It's gonna be a thing. Opening a business here isn't, especially if Spanish isn't your first language, it's gonna be a thing. You don't see, there are definitely foreign-owned businesses, but it's like Costco, right? You don't see, again, a lot of places, like you'll see in a lot of countries, you'll see people who are foreign to that country operating things like corner stores or markets. You don't see that in Mexico. I have not seen that in Mexico. Everybody I've seen working in a store like that is local. I don't know who owns it. I don't know if these are like, I don't know if anyone who's working there owns it or is related to anyone who owns this particular 7-Eleven, Oxxo, whatever it is, right? Like, I don't know if it's a chain. But it's very rare to see I'll put it like this. It's very rare to see foreigners working in customer facing roles. I cannot think of the last time in Mexico City I saw someone who was not from Mexico, not even someone from another country, but someone who did not seem to be from Mexico in a customer facing role anywhere. Like I'm thinking of a restaurant right now where one of the owners is not Mexican, but the co-owner is Mexican. I think if you have a business that interacts with humans, it's going to be hard to do if you're not Mexican. That is my impression. I could be wrong. Someone could be down here with businesses that are thriving, hopefully legal and thriving, and not just ignoring the rules and thriving. But I don't know. If you want to ignore the rules and thrive, I think you have a much better chance than like following the rules and thriving as a foreigner. Jay says, if you're arriving in a small town in Mexico with maybe only one ATM in center of town, wake up early to get your money. There will be a line. They run out of money as the day goes on. That's a good point. The lines here in Mexico City for the banks tend to be really long. I always get my money in the airport when I'm coming through. But like the ATM out here, the ATMs by me don't have lines. But when I go to a banking center, the banking centers tend to have really long lines. Okay, Adelia, who I tell you, like I know stuff, but Adelia knows stuff. Adelia says there's a $1,000 Mexican note. I thought there was, I just wasn't sure. Let's see. Do you as a Black woman get a certain respect, as a Black American let me read this. Okay. Do you as a Black American woman get a certain respect in Mexico City? I get a certain respect, yes, because of the American part. And the American part is frequently associated with money. But I also get a certain amount of, more than the respect, I get a certain amount of deference that looks like just leaving me alone, right? And I think that's available to everyone. Like people here, my favorite thing about Mexico City, people tend to mind their own business. Like, is it your concern why I'm here? No, you're not going to ask me. No one asks me questions, right? No one wants to know what people might want to know what I'm doing on this block or what I'm doing in this building or anywhere. No one asks me. No one feels like they have the right to stop me, to make me answer their questions, right? And so that's something that we don't typically see a lot of in America. People very much feel like they have the right to make you prove that you belong to them. It doesn't happen in Mexico City. I don't think that is because I'm Black or American. I think it's because people just mind their own business. But yeah, as far as the respect thing, I think the American is the thing that holds the greater weight. more than like woman, fine, Black, okay, but American, yeah. All right, Oxos are all owned by Mexican company FEMSA, and all the stores are owned by them. They don't franchise. Fourth deconstruction, you know a lot of things that I do not know, and I appreciate that because I wasn't sure about Oxos. ZMAC, however, different seasons in Mexico City is like one long season. It rains. I mean, summertime is the rainy season, but like wintertime, it got down to like 40s, I think, as below when I was here this winter. But like in the daytime, it might hit 70s. Today, it's a summertime. It's going to be in the 70s. Like there's not that much of a difference. It's very kind of constant year round, which is one of the things that makes it really great. Rains in the summertime. Don't leave without an umbrella or a raincoat because it's probably going to start raining around like 6 o'clock. All right. Do you find yourself speaking more English or Spanish? I speak, if I knew more Spanish, I would speak more Spanish. But a lot of times my conversations start with like, I'm sorry. In Spanish, I can say, I'm sorry, I don't speak a lot of Spanish. And then I'll kind of act out what I need with the Spanish words that I have. With other, sometimes, like when I went to IKEA the other day, I started a lot of the conversations with, do you speak English? Because IKEA hires a lot of English. Almost everyone I spoke to there was like, I'd start speaking Spanish and then they'd be like, stop, like this, stop it. Like, your Spanish is not good enough for us to do this. And then they tell me they spoke English. So after a while, I kind of said, like, do you speak English? And the answer was always yes. So there are some places, like I go to Costco a lot. Not all of their employees speak English, but a lot of the people who work in management or at checkout speak English. There's just some places like that where I can speak. If I spoke more Spanish, I would speak more Spanish. Right now, it's Spanglish. I give you what I got and you deal with it. But I do try to defer to speaking Spanish unless the person stops me. So I give them my broken Spanish unless I am at a loss for how to say something or I know the person speaks English. English is not as popular in Mexico City as it is in the beach towns or in the tourist towns because this is not a tourist town at all. All right. Is it hard to find Black hair care products? No. Like it's okay. So you're not going to find all the things you can find in the US. Like you're not going to find everything in the Shea Moisture line. You're not going to find everything that Carson creates. You're not going to find, you might not find Just For Me if that's what you're looking for your kid, but you will find enough things. I don't know if I can find a box perm. I haven't looked for one. But like there's a Sally's across the street from me. I see mane and tail so much in Mexico and I'm like, do Black people in the US, are we still using mane and tail or have we freed ourselves from those shackles? I don't know. But they have a lot of it here. The Sally's here have a lot of the products they have at Sally's in the US. Walmart here, Chedraui, which is a large store, Superama, which is owned by Walmart. They have a lot of products you will identify as Black hair care products. They are not there. There's a chance they're not going to have everything. They're not going to have everything you want. They're not going to have everything you ever use. They're not going to have the full line of anything, but they're going to have something that's going to say, oh, that looks familiar to me. Or like, oh, I always want to try that or something like that. Like there's a lot of products here. So don't worry about that. All right. Tips for meeting new people as an expat. I have tips for meeting people online, but actually like in person. In person isn't really my jam. I can come here and talk to you guys online, but especially now during the pandemic, I'm not much of an in-person thing, but I've joined quite a few Facebook groups here. And if I was trying to make like expat Facebook groups, I haven't joined any local ones. No, I have joined a few that have local people in them, and they're not expat groups. If I was looking to go out more, I would probably be trying to make friends more. What I'll say about Mexico City is that Black women in particular are very, very good at like reaching out. So it's unlikely that I'm going to see a Black woman in the street and not stop her. And we just talked about how Mexican people mind their own business. They won't stop you and ask you what they're doing here. But like me, I see a Black woman, I'm like, hey, what are you doing here? What's going on? How long have you been here? How long are you going to be here? Let's be friends. And so I guess I do that same, like, why are you here kind of thing. But it's not because I don't think you belong. It's because I'm like, hey, are you going to be here long enough for us to be friends? And so that happens frequently enough that you can build a network from strangers. I have, especially not so much in my new neighborhood, but in my old neighborhood, people, Mexicans would stop me and just be like, hey, like at the market. And they would talk, like if they spoke English, they would talk to me in English. I think one of my barriers here with locals is that I don't speak very good Spanish. And so the conversations are choppy at best. And so, a lot of times if we can have a choppy conversation or a smooth conversation, we're going to choose the smooth conversation. And I think that kind of cuts me out of some friendships with more local people. So a tip for making friends as an expat is to learn language as good as you can. All right. Let's see. Dwayne, you can find Cantu down here, right? I've seen Cantu here. All right, what are we talking about? About the 151. I'm trying to see. Oh, a pocket talk. Is that like a translator? Okay, so I intentionally don't use I have Google Translate on my phone. I intentionally don't use my translator unless we are at an impasse and the person's giving me the leave me alone face. I try to find the words to have the conversation I need to have with the words I have. Like when I first got here, I couldn't remember the word for rain. So I asked the guys at the front desk about the water from the sky. Like I had those words. I had water, I had sky. And so I wanted to ask them like how long it had been raining. I think I asked them like how long the sky had been watering. Okay, right? Like, but I don't want, because I'm here and it's not a vacation, because I'm here full time, I'm really trying to be better about learning the language and using it in situations where I might ordinarily be flustered. Like I don't want to pull out a translator because I don't know the words. I want to like dig deep and see what I can come up with. I have started taking Spanish lessons and I have a book. Oh, wait, hold up. Let me show it to you. If you want to learn more Spanish, this is the book that my Spanish teacher and I are using. You can get it on Amazon. I'll put a link to it, I guess, in the description. But that is what I'm using to learn Spanish right now. We're working on conjugating verbs, which super struggle life for me. But I'm working it through. I have homework to do. We started at the very beginning of the book, like page 4, which is right after the intro. And this has 470 something pages. So I've got a lot of learning to do. We'll make its way through. What did you use to learn a little Spanish? I took Spanish in high school. I grew up in Southern California, so Spanish was around. So I think I took it in high school maybe, and maybe sometime before that. I've taken at least 2 Spanish classes, and so I know enough. I know a little bit more from vacation Spanish, right? I used to say I know vacation Spanish, or like I used to know like how not to get kidnapped Spanish, which isn't really the right way to say it. But like especially if I go out at night, which I don't do a lot, I am not comfortable if I don't understand what people are saying. And so I like to be, it's how not to get kidnapped is not about speaking Spanish or being in a Spanish speaking country. It's about like how I proceed through life in general, right? Like I want to know enough of your language to know if like danger is out there, or if someone is saying like things that are important for me to know that I don't understand, I want to know that. And if I don't know that, I'm probably not going to be out at night, right? No matter where I am. And so, yes, I know enough Spanish to be like, I feel like this is a friendly conversation, or I don't like the way this is sounding. I got to pay attention. Like when I told you those people tried to rob me, I could tell, I wasn't sure what was going on with the one employee in the restaurant, but I knew something was not right. And he came up to me shortly afterwards and he was like, I don't know what was going on, but that was not right. And we figured out what was going on together. But like, I could tell from the conversation they were having that something was wrong. They were blocking his view so he couldn't see me as they tried to take my bag. I told him it was a very terrible attempt at a robbery, but they tried. A for effort or whatever. So like I could tell from what was being said that something, like from his tone, that something wasn't right. I just didn't have the words. I didn't know the words. And so that's kind of like how much Spanish I have now. But me and my trusty book, which I'll give you the link for, we are learning things. All right. Oh, also watch TV and listen to Spanish. Yes. Okay. So my Spanish teachers also instructed me to watch The House of Flowers on Netflix. It takes place in Mexico City, and she wanted me to be able to like hear the words because she thinks I hear things and pick them up really well. I don't know if that's true, but she thinks I do. So I'm going to claim it as my own. I hear things and I pick them up really well. So House of Flowers on Netflix is a show that takes place in Mexico City. The first episode's a little hard to get through. But once you get through that, it gets easier. Yeah. All right. Oh, and I tried Duolingo, but I felt like a lot of the phrases weren't helpful. Like, I'm never going to ask someone like how much the horse costs. And so I just want something I understand why that phrase might be, like I understand putting together the phrase, but I want to start with something that's just a little bit more useful to my life. And so I got pretty far in Duolingo and I was just like, I don't like it. Plus that owl was always trying to remind me. And I'm like, sis, leave me alone. Like, what is this pressure? Stop with the notifications. All right. All right. Dwayne says Cantu can be found at Sally's if you're looking for hair products. You like Cantu. Okay, let's see. All right. Yes, House of Flowers on Netflix, or I think it's Las Casas de Flores. I don't know. Because my Netflix is set to English, because that's the account I set it up in, it shows up as House of Flowers, but I think it might be truly Las Casas de Flores. All right. Yeah, I don't. Okay, Jay Hall says Duolingo is for vocab only. And maybe that's my problem, is like I have generally the vocab. It's how to get it properly into a sentence that doesn't have people staring at me like I'm an idiot. That's what I want. And I think that's what I wasn't getting from Duolingo, which is why I have a Spanish teacher. And the price is, I need to pay her for this week. I think it's like $12 an hour. So it's not even like a terrible price for like one-on-one instruction. And I think that's also good pay down here. I know it's good pay down here. So I feel good. I'm contributing to the economy. I'm paying for weekly Spanish lessons. I'm learning. All right. Z, I love you. Someone asks this question every week. I need to get the answer to this question. Z asks, is it hard to date? And someone asks this every week. And every week I come up with the same answer. I don't know. I'm not trying. Like, I think I said this last week. And this is not to tell Z there's no problem with asking. Ask your questions. I had a Tinder profile, but I was like, it's too. Let me start over with Bumble. I hear people are having a lot of luck down here with Bumble. So I got on Bumble, set up my account, didn't even write a profile. I just gave them like my name, my age, and a photo. And I got on, and I opened the account. I saw the first person, and I closed it. And I haven't been back on. And I'm just like, it's a pandemic. People aren't getting whatchamacallit, the jab. They're not getting vaccinated at the speed I would like to see. I don't like strangers. It's a real uphill battle for me. And I'm not meeting people in person. When I was in Roma Norte, I was meeting people in person more. I'm in Polanco now. I don't meet people in person as often. Adelia and I, I'm putting her business in the streets now. We went out and made an effort to meet. We went out in the hopes of meeting people, and we got there and we were like, no. Mm-mm. So that is a goal, is to meet humans in person, but I don't go out a lot. And I think when I do, it's usually like, I am going to Costco. It's not like I'm going out at night to go to a bar to meet strangers. I'm going to Costco. I'm going to the grocery store is typically my life near. So not a lot of dating. Oh, see, no worries having the question. I tell you, it's just that people, I wish I had, I think it's not that the question is asked frequently, is that I don't have a good answer. And I have to admit, but I do not have a good answer to this question. There are people here who have come down here and gotten in relationships, gotten married, etc. That is not my life. I do not know that story. All right, let's see. Yolanda says, I'll meet someone at Costco. You know what, Yolanda? Claiming it. I will meet someone at Costco. Okay. So I actually just need to go there like tomorrow probably. So Costco. All right. I think that's going to be it for today. We talked a little bit longer than we usually do. I'm going to drop this link again to Ask Me Anything session. You can schedule that anytime you want. Ask me questions one-on-one if there's anything you didn't want to ask here. Tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Adelia, who has been a gem here today, is going live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about health insurance in Mexico. We bullied her. We harassed her. We told her she had to do this because we needed the information about insurance in Mexico. So if you have not already subscribed to her channel, go subscribe to her channel. Go set a reminder for tonight's live. Go check it out. I will not be there, but I'm going to catch the replay. If you're watching this on the replay, thanks for being here. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone's energy. NW, I watch Spanish television with the NW says, I tried watching Spanish television. I just get frustrated because I talk too fast. I listen to the words in Spanish, but I do put subtitles on. Otherwise, my Spanish is not good enough to know what's going on. Roshida says, Stephanie Perry loves meeting strangers, and that's your bud, right? Yes, we're also very different people. And that's the reason we work so well together, is that we fill in each other's holes. She is the meeting strangers person. I am not the meeting strangers person. Let's see. So I think that's it for today. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your time and your energy and your good vibes. And I'll be back next week. If there's something that you want to talk about next week, either shoot me a message on IG. I'm Sheeta D. I'm going to write that in the comments right now. Sheeta D at IG. And I am trying to write out the whole link. Or when this goes live, write it Never mind. I know what I already know. Okay, so if you have ideas for a future video, something you want me to talk about, definitely let me know in the comments here or on IG. I just dropped the link. So when this allows comments, you can add the comment here. But next week, I'm going live with Michelle, who lives in San Miguel de Allende. And we're going to talk about life in San Miguel de Allende, which is my favorite town, but I kind of don't want to live there. So I want to talk to her about living life there. So if you have any interest in San Miguel, come through next Sunday, and we'll talk about it. All right. Until then. Ooh, J. Phil says, thank you for everything. I've been following your channel, and now I'm moving to Mexico City in October. I'm very excited about that. I love hearing people say they moved to Mexico City. If you don't love it, you can't blame me, though. Right? I will take the credit for it if it's the best decision you've ever made. If it is not, I don't know you. I don't know what happened. That has nothing to do with me. Credit only around here. Okay, thanks, everyone. I will talk to you next time. Bye.